features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a very hot day here in Djuma Game Reserve, and I think these lions are feeling the heat too. We also have a very upset squirrel. It's all happening here, and it's just the beginning of your live safari through the African bush. Welcome on board, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here on the very back of our safari vehicles across 6 different locations in Africa. This location, though, is Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Lowveld, and we are sitting here with the Nkuhuma Pride and one Avoca male. My name is Lauren, and I do have BK on camera this afternoon, and they've just been watching a giraffe behind us. Interested, but not going to do anything about it. The noise that you can hear, or something along those lines, is a squirrel who has obviously just realised that there's a pride of lions at the bottom of the tree. Yes, horrifying. So because we're live and interactive, that means that you must talk to us. Please do send in your comments and your wonderful questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or you can reach out to us using @FC on the YouTube chat stream. And of course, kids, you are the most important of them all. No matter which country you're in, you must also talk to us. But you use email, and the email address is kidquestions@wildearth.tv. We can't wait to answer all these tricky questions that you have up your sleeve for us. There's a nice breeze starting to pick up, and it's really necessary today. I think water holes are going to be the best place for us to check because it's 31 degrees Celsius and 88 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is hot. We'll stay with these lions for a little bit, and then I do want to go check a bigger water hole called Chitwa for some elephants and potentially Miss Tandy.
Planet Irrepon. Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, where we are currently looking at the backside of a hammerkop. So the name comes from the shape of the head, which we can't see at the moment. He's just facing away from us, but he's wading through the water, just looking for something to eat. So my name is Marna, and with me, as always, is Gert behind the camera. So we came to the waterhole this afternoon looking for elephants or potentially buffaloes, drinking or maybe wallowing in the water. And we found this little hammerkop here. And as you came to us, there are some elephants arriving. But we'll look at them just now. So this hammerkop, we've been watching him for quite some time, and he's just been walking up and down the side of this little puddle. All right, this is quite beautiful. I'm just going to turn around. These elephants are passing us in the back. Beautiful to see those elephants going into a watering hole while the winter season's really sort of set in here. We've managed to find a white rhino and a herd of wildebeest at this dried out watering hole while we've been looking around our western side of the reserve for cheetah this morning. Welcome to And Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Craig, and we will be with you this afternoon. So if we're watching these animals, you can see just by the behavior, sort of what a hot kind of day it is here at And Beyond Phinda. You can see they're not doing too much of anything. In fact, moments ago, this white rhino was lying down right out in the open, just like those wildebeest are. It's quite unusual that it didn't choose a little patch of shade. There's not a huge amount of shade around, but there certainly is some just to the left and the right of him. Normally you would find in the heat of the day, if it got too hot for them to carry on feeding, they would just go off and lie in the shade. So I think this rhino is just sort of starting to wake up. He might decide to go and feed just now. I think he's just getting a little bit of his bearings. I'm laughing because the last time I completely ignored what was happening in the picture and all the rangers teased me saying, why didn't you point out what was happening? So I think I'll just talk about it now. So as you can see, like I said the last time I found a rhino doing this, he is indeed a male, and there has been some text published that when you can see he's just gotten erect now. And there has been some text published where you can see how it actually flipped up, and people speculate that it is trying to chase away flies. But it is actually just a reflex, sort of involuntary reflex that happens occasionally to all male animals. So it's nothing unusual. He hasn't spotted a female and suddenly decided he's quite interested. It's just possibly part of waking up. You know, he's been lying down and now his body is just naturally sort of waking itself up. I'm wondering if he is here because there's a little bit of water off to our left, just out of frame. This watering hole is dried up, but we do pump a little bit of water to this small little watering hole on the left-hand side, and that's why you see quite a few animals around us. So we've got this herd of wildebeest, this rhino, and we've also got some impala off to the right. So we're going to stay here and see if maybe this rhino gets up and starts moving and hopefully has a bit of a drink.
Jambo Jambo and hello. Welcome to another part of Africa. I am in Kenya, and I think it's a very good way to start our sunset safari with lions, then rhinos, and now giraffes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 giraffes. How exciting is that? A very good afternoon, everybody. My name is David, and on camera with me this afternoon is Bungei. I'm sure my friends have already told you to talk to us, which gives us a lot of joy when we are talking about all these giraffes here, as many as they are. And we like hearing questions from you. We love comments, and you can always send them through to #WorldEarth on Twitter or at FC in the comments section of the YouTube chat channels. For the young ones, you can also do the same by sending us emails, kidsquestions@worldearth.tv. These are the Maasai giraffe. Many herbivores go in huge herds, and most of giraffes. And because of the heat of the day, they're just standing there looking, and not once. We have used these giraffes as indicators of them leading us to predators. Because when they stop like that, and they look in a particular direction without moving, it's either they can see something that I may not be able to see where I am. And that has happened very many times. It's a very warm Masai Mara today, 27 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But I'm feeling like we'll have no rain. So regardless of the high temperatures, there are no signs of any rain. The clouds look clear, very blue. A few clouds here that do not show signs of rain for whatever time before we finish the drive. The tallest animals we got in the world. And I want to watch them here for a few more minutes. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to you live.
So these elephants have decided to come to the little puddle where we had the hamerkop before, and they are just having the time of their lives. Notice all the youngsters that are completely submerged in the water and the mud. So you'll see the adults still sucking up the water and then splashing it onto their backs, whereas the youngsters just fall into the mud and roll around. It is adorable. It is quite hot today, so this is perfect for them coming to cool themselves down. Look at that little one. It almost looks like he's struggling to get up. Now you can imagine how refreshing this must be after a long, hot day out in this bush. So they walked over to the other side of the dam, and that's where they started drinking. And then they came this way for their mud bath. So you can imagine if they did this on the other side, that water wouldn't have been nice to drink. Very smart. The two youngsters there. Now what you'll notice them doing is, like this female now, when she sprays water onto herself, she also sprays water behind the ears. Now, you'll see that the skin of the ears, it's really, really thin. Lots of veins running through those ears. So by throwing water onto the ears, it helps cool the blood that runs through it. So these elephants are still having a really good time. And all of them covered in mud and water at this stage. So Mitra, we are, luckily for us, we are perched up on a little bank. And we have quite a good escape route where we are. So if something had to go wrong, we would be able to get away quite quickly. But also you can see just by their body language, and they're not interested in us at all. Usually with a herd like this, you must just make sure that you don't separate the members, so don't come in between, say, a mother and a calf, or don't put yourself in the midst of the herd, and then you should be fine, and respect their space. So we're able to zoom in quite closely, but we are, like I said, we're perched up on a bank. We're going to sit with them for a little while longer and see what they get up to.
Well, hopefully they will go and have a good mud bath and, well, just do elephant things. As you can see, we've had some luck this afternoon already. We've managed to catch up with the little Princess Klalamba here at Djuma, and she's having a really good nap in the shade, and I'm not surprised because she was very busy last night, and even this morning she had a long walk, and she managed to even catch herself a scrub hare in mid-morning, so she's been good. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Niels, and this is a very, very, very warm welcome to Djuma, and I say warm because it's hot, so you can imagine why she's in the shade. She's waiting for this heat of the day just to cool down a little bit, and she's got herself a really nice little shady area where she can lie with the breeze that is blowing, and that will just keep her nice and cool. And you can see her tummy is fairly full, so after kind of eating the whole week, she was on kills for about 4 days of this week, and then she managed, like I say, to catch a scrub here this morning at about 10 o'clock, and she ate that, and so that little tummy of hers is fairly full, and I think she's a content, happy kitty for now, just to wait out the hot part of the day before she starts to get going. But it wasn't easy to find her this afternoon. She kind of had tucked herself away, and there's only really one gap, which is where we are at the moment. And so luckily, we managed to spot her ears from a little bit of a distance away and then find a way through. So that's good. So again, are you asking why she's breathing so heavily? And the reason for it is that she's hot. It's a warm day here. The temperature is about 32, 33 degrees. There's a bit of a cooling wind, but it's hot for a cat that's covered in fur. And so what happens is that they have an accelerated rate of breathing is to help cool them down. At the moment, you can see her mouth is closed, but when her temperature starts going up, she opens her mouth slightly and she starts to do what's known as panting. So she starts to basically breathe over her tongue, and that causes a very, very cooling effect by passing hot air over a liquid surface, and that evaporation starts to take place, and evaporation is a cooling way of cooling. So she's doing that. The other thing is that she's quite full. And so a big stomach pushes up on those lungs. It decreases her ability for the lungs to expand fully, and so breaths are shorter and faster. But it's mostly due to the heat. If it was a nice cool day, you would find her breathing rate would be far slower than what it is. But she is absolutely beautiful, isn't she? I'm sure we're going to be in for a treat this afternoon. She generally entertains, and so we're just going to be patient and wait to see what she gets up to.
Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a bunch of zebra trying to cross the Mara River. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. We are seated here at the Mara River waiting for these zebras to try and cross the river. We have a bunch of zebras on this other side of the river, but then the rest that I think were left on the other side might or want to decide to cross. Now we have big crocs on where these paths that lead from the water are. So that is why these zebras are walking back and forth. So they've walked downstream and upstream, trying to find a good location where they can cross. Now across to where we are, that is where the big crocs are. So the zebras on our side, I can hear the stallions actually calling. So an attraction that makes the other ones want to cross as well. Now when zebras decide to cross, it's actually very interesting to see, because they come and they're so much brave that sometimes even the crocs, when they approach them, you find them jumping up, avoiding the crocs. Now this is not a very big herd, small relative herd, but then when they decide to cross, it's actually interesting to see. Now during this time of the migration, we witness lots of crossing. So this, where we are, is called the main crossing. Along the Mara River in Kenya, this is the main crossing. This crossing has been here for over 4-5 decades. Now, interesting thing is how they manage to use or utilize the same crossing point over and over years. Look at those crocs there. They blend in so well, you can't really even see them. The camouflage has really played a good job. Sudan, thank you so much for your comment. Indeed. Now look at the crocodiles. They're so well blended. They blend in so well with the rocks. You can hardly see them. Now, the zebras are not sure whether the crocs are here, but most of the attacks come in the water. So when the river is flowing this much, the zebras will try and cross somewhere, and what happens? The crocs get back to the river and try and swim where the zebras are crossing to get a meal. Now, they've not yet decided, so we're not sure who's going to be the leader, who's going to be first to cross. We'll be patient, because some walk downstream, while others walk upstream. But then we'll still wait here and find out what's going to happen soon.
We have got sleeping elephants under the shade of a knobthorn tree this afternoon. Actually, on a single tree that you look at, you'll see an elephant. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Odie, and we are at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger. But it is a day for elephants, and hopefully we'll be able to take a closer look at them. It looks like they're just having a bit of a sleep. As you can see how they're all huddled together. Unfortunately, there isn't many trees that have leaves on them as we're in dry season, and a lot of the trees out here do lose their leaves, although this knobthorn is just starting to get some, providing them with just a small amount of shade. You can see all the leaves just in the middle. So you can see how big these are. They're so tall, a couple of leadwoods as well, but just not enough shade to keep a whole herd covered. You'd think that and have space wrap their ears and really cool themselves down. But that's okay, because Ndlovu Dam is literally less than 100 meters away, and it will be the third time that they go down to the dam if they head in that direction. A pool party out here all day long. But very, very cool to be able to sit with these animals and just enjoy them, even as they sleep. You can see the wind is also starting to pick up now, a nice cool breeze. I think that they are definitely appreciating that, as are Odie and I.
Oh, hello. We're still sitting admiring our lions sleeping and thinking it's most likely they're not going to get up for quite a while. Now, I wasn't sure who the avoca was this morning, but it's actually Mohawk. I thought it could have been Blondie, but we got a good look at his face when he stood up to reposition, and it's definitely Mohawk, not Blondie. There's 3 members of the Avoca Coalition. Darkmane, who's normally with the other pride, the Talamati pride. And then we do have Blondie and Mohawk. Some of them have got blood on their necks. We're having a really good look here. Same as this morning. I think they did kill something last night, but I don't think it was big, and I don't think everyone got some. Some look slightly more full than others. And if it's just a small to medium-sized antelope, like let's go for an impala, that's not substantial enough to feed every single mouth. We've got 7 lionesses here, 1 male and 9 cubs. That's a lot of hungry bellies to feed. And an impala would not be substantial enough. It would be over very quickly as well. There's a huge herd of buffalo moving between Chitwa and Torchwood at the moment. So I just wonder, they might cross over onto Djuma. And I wonder if the Nkuhumas are following them. They keep moving with the shade. Every time they realise that they're in the sun, they'll just get up and move. And it would be so lovely to see the entire pride go to Treehouse Dam and drink. That would be really wonderful. So let's hope that that does happen this afternoon. I still haven't managed to figure out which lioness is missing. It could be the nick-eared lioness, but I still haven't had a good look at all their faces. When they're lion-like tawny bodies, all huddled up in a big puddle like this, it's very difficult to identify who is who. You really need to look at their facial features in order to pick out the eyes, the ears, the scratches. Did not catch that name, I'm afraid, but you're asking, are lions based only in Africa? Well, believe it or not, the species that you're looking at is the only species of lion remaining, and it's the African lion. This is known as Panthera leo. They're part of the Panthera genus of big cats that consists of 5, and that is tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard and jaguar. That's your big 5 cats, and the African lions are only found in Africa. Their distribution used to be so much larger across the world, but sadly not anymore. The populations, lions are still in trouble, although we're very lucky to have many different prides in this area, the northern sector of the Sabi Sands, which sits on the sort of western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. There's lots of lions around, but in general, the distribution is so much less than what it used to be. Lions were far more prevalent. So I think we're going to visit a little water hole, and then we'll come back to our sleepy cats.
It's interesting to learn how widely lions are distributed. Now here we have our zebra herd that has concentrated here in the river, but have decided not to cross because we have gigantic crocs waiting on their path. Now they have to move back and forth. Maybe they might decide to go downstream or maybe upstream where it's safer for them to cross. We have 2 crocs that are really very well camouflaged and blend in with the rocks. I like calling it rock or croc. This is very, very interesting to see. Look at how well they blend. Now, if an animal walked to the river there or to the edge, might fall prey to those 2 crocs. Now, the zebras having a very sharp eye. I've really watched and seen these crocs, so they've decided to take a pause not to cross from that point. So one of them had decided to go up further away from the river, and I think the rest are not yet decided whether to follow that stallion or not. I can see they've turned their heads away from the river, meaning that they either might head back to the savannah and maybe walk downstream to a suitable spot where they can cross. Across to where we are, there's lots of zebras and wildebeest. This means that maybe they had crossed a little while earlier. So the ones sometimes when they cross in a very big herd and they're cut short by the crocs, the herd that is left always waits and cross another time. Now those 2 look like they want to choose a different direction, upstream. Please come again with your question. Didn't get you clearly. Thank you so much for your question. What year did the Great Migration start? Now, it's not known exactly when. So I reckon it's been over than 6 decades. Now, when I was growing up, I used to come with my grandfather around this area. Where those wildebeest are, I tell you, it was a big thicket. So it has slowly been cleared by elephants and other animals. So this has been going on for long. So I reckon more than 6 decades rather, the Great Migration has been happening. but the exact date is really not known. So we're still going to wait here because definitely these zebras are going to cross. As we wait, let's go to our other locations in Southern Africa.
Well, that's the story of being out in the bushes. One has to be patient and wait if you are to see amazing things. And the crossings that take place on the Mara River are definitely worth waiting for, as is waiting for our leopard to wake up, because, well, when they get going, anything can really happen, and particularly with this leopard, because she is quite active when she does decide to wake up. She generally moves around quite quickly. She normally hunts quite a lot. She's been very, very vocal, calling a lot over the last few weeks, and we're still trying to figure out exactly why. We haven't seen her mating yet, so we don't know if that calling is trying to attract a male. But given that yesterday we tracked a male right where we are right now, I don't think it can be that. I mean, we haven't seen the male trying to join with her. We haven't found tracks of her and the male together. So maybe it's a situation where she's trying to set up a territory more than anything else at this stage. And she's trying to just make sure that when she does mate and when she does have the cubs, that she has a secure area in which to do it. So she's been very, very busy, and that means that if we're patient with her this afternoon, maybe we'll get something really decent later on. You never know what can happen if she starts to call. That can often attract other leopards into the area. Where she's sitting right now is on the fringe of the territory with her mother, and so her mother could arrive. You could get a male arriving. It also attracts often hyenas to the area. So there's lots that can happen, and that's why being patient out in the bush is one of the best things that one can be. A lot of the time, people come into the bush and they go to something, they see something, and they take a picture and they leave, and that way is always going to be very difficult to see interesting behavior from an animal, or to even understand the animal better. It's always worth sitting and being patient, and even when they're sleeping like this and it looks like they're not going to do anything, something can change immediately. We might have a herd of impala that walks past, or a nyala that piques her interest, and all of a sudden she's up and moving, or like I say, another leopard around. And so you just got to be patient and wait, and eventually things will happen. And so that's exactly what we're going to do, and I'm sure at some stage she's going to wake up and give us a show.
Ek die modder op haar tand.
Right, so as you can see, we do sometimes have a few little technical issues out in the bush, and so you're back with us. Our leopard is still having a little nap at this stage. Not much has changed. She is taking it very easy. But what you can see is, do you see on her tummy, there's this kind of flash of light every now and then. And so that's sun that's hitting her tummy. And I wouldn't be surprised that she moves slightly. As the sun is moving this afternoon or during the day, so shade is changing. And you'll find a situation where she's going to want to try and get herself into more shade. And so that sun on her is actually not the worst thing for us. It could potentially start to wake her up a little bit, and we get a situation where her eyes start to open and she starts to think about moving and gets up and finds another little spot. But for now, she's a very, very
So the zebra is still debating on whether they can cross the river. So we'll still be patiently waiting because definitely they have to cross. Now some are facing different direction. We have some that are facing upstream, others facing our direction, and others are facing downstream. So whoever is going to start or decide to cross, we have no idea yet. But it shows signs that because one is at least trying to come closer to the edge of the river. Unfortunately, we have the big crocs waiting out of the river, and that's not a good sign because these zebras will not dare get close to the crocs. Now the water is not as strong, the current is not strong, so it's a good indication that these zebras might decide to cross either from one of these crossing points here. But we'll still be waiting. Others had crossed a little while earlier, about noon. So the rest that was cut short, I'm suspecting by the crocs who maybe might have tried to go for one or two zebras. So the reason why the small herd has been left behind. Now where Big James is doing a good job, he's pointed out some other big crocs. Look at the one to the right, a gigantic one. Now that is one of the paths that is used during this spectacular migration time when the wildebeest and zebras are crossing. So definitely they're not going to use that path. So they know quite well that that is a route or path that is used by animals, the reason why they're going out there. And also, because of the clay soil there, it's warm. These crocs are called cold-blooded. They need to warm themselves during the day, and when they get into the water, they'll keep warm. So as we wait, let's see what's going to happen.
We've just caught up with a herd of elephants. We went to Treehouse Dam, which I thought was the best place, and I'm just going to slowly position myself out of their way to give you all a view of this herd. I'm just going to turn around past this mound, BK. Now, some of you were mentioning the lions in India, and yes, you do get Asiatic lions. Now, they're not a species. That is the same species. Sorry, I'm just positioning. I'm not sure we're going to get a very good view of these elephants, BK. Shall we go forward a little bit more? Okay, we'll go forward a little bit more. Panthera leo is a species, and there's only one species. But you can get subspecies out here in the wild. And what subspecies generally means is a taxonomic category, and it's below species. And it's usually when you get a fairly permanent group of geographically isolated species. So when you see a species like, let's use my name, Lauren Arthur. That's a species. There's two Latin names, Panthera leo or Loxodonta africana, if you're talking about the elephants. But when there's a third Latin name joined on there, like Lauren Sarah Arthur, my name, or Panthera leo, that's a subspecies. So when you talk about the small population of lions that are still in India, it's not a separate species. It's still the Panthera leo species. They've just been isolated geographically over time. So they're completely and utterly related to the African lions, but now that they are isolated and indigenous to India, we call them the Asiatic lions. There's also African elephants and Asian elephants. Loxodonta africana versus Elephas maximus, I think. And they are separate species, completely different Latin names, not similar, and they don't have a third Latin name on the end there. So they're not subspecies of one another, not really related closely. Of course, they're both elephants, but they're completely separate species-wise, whereas the lions are from the same species and they're classified as separate species. So going back to your original question, there's really only one species of lions and a subspecies found in India. So sadly, these elephants are not going to the water, but we will try and keep up with them.
So we are still sitting around the waterhole, and this elephant bull arrived just after that large herd finished taking a bath. He came in and he did exactly the same thing. Now when he turns his head again, you'll actually still see some mud on his left tusk there. And just two little piles of mud that's just on it. He started quite conservatively, sucking up the water and the mud and just splashing it onto himself. And then it was almost as like he got frustrated and he started kicking the water around. And then eventually he went down and he just started rolling in it. And now he's just drinking. So we've noticed something quite interesting about this elephant, and we'll see if he turns around, I'll point it out. But have a look and see if you can notice what's wrong with his trunk. So have a look at the lower part of the trunk, so towards the tip. Let's see when he lifts it out of the water. There. And you'll see that he doesn't have those two little appendages or like fingertip-like fingers that the other elephants have. So I don't know how he lost it. It could have been a snare or potentially a crocodile when he was drinking one day, something like that. But it was quite interesting to see when he was splashing water onto himself. He didn't have a lot of control over when he would release the water, so the water was just splashing everywhere. At least he didn't lose a lot of it, and it seems like he's coping fine. Nicholas, why do elephants roll in mud? So it's to keep themselves cool. Like I mentioned earlier, you can imagine how hot it must be walking around this open savanna area the whole day. So they head to these water holes, they splash water onto themselves, they roll in the mud, and that mud covers the skin, so it will keep them cool and also protect the skin against the sun. And I'm sure you've noticed that elephants are quite wrinkly, so that mud and water will also go sit in the creases, and that helps so that it doesn't evaporate quickly and it keeps them cooler for longer.
This area where I am, where you can see that bird and many other white birds that we call egrets and giraffes in the background, is also loved by the elephants. I imagine if those elephants were here, they could be enjoying what the elephants here in the Masai Mara do enjoy. It's an area that we call the marsh area because it's always wet and green almost all around the year. But I got a feathered friend here, and this is the lilac-breasted roller, one of the most beautiful birds you'll see in Africa. And for only one obvious reason, she's perched up there to hunt. So if you look at her carefully, she keeps moving her head from left to right, finding out where she may spot an insect in the ground. Those are the hunting grounds, unlike some of the birds like the bee-eaters that will hunt while in flight, or swifts or swallows. The rollers, and especially this one, will always perch on a small little bush, like where she is. Look down. Any slight movement of an insect, be it a bee, be it a beetle, be it a grasshopper, she'll very quickly fly down, catch it. If it's too big, you see sometimes they'll use their wings to kill it or to subdue it before they swallow it. It's the national bird of Kenya. and one of the most colorful birds that you will see. I'm trying to think whether there's any other bird that has as many colors as the lilac, and I highly doubt. She's got about 8 different colors. She got a reddish brown in her. Jonathan, yes, you're saying this bird is so colorful. Very good, Jonathan. It is. And should you also have another, a question regarding this same bird, Jonathan, please bring it over and or send it over. I'm just trying to count you the colors that I know in this small bird here. And I say it got a reddish brown, and then it got white, it got turquoise, it got black, it got dark blue, it got green, it got a bit of yellow. Did I say white? If I didn't, then plus white, that makes 8 colors. And as I said earlier, it is the national bird of Kenya. Once in a while, you see them in twos, but generally, they are always solitary birds. Apparently, they live and eat, or they live and hunt reptiles. I'm talking of chameleons. I'm talking of geckos. I'm talking of lizards. And the last big hunt I saw with this bird was a snake. They look small, but they're very good hunters. If, of course, they get an amphibian, why not? This is just adjusting her feet there for a takeoff. Because what they need to do once they spot their prey, they need just to take off very quickly, go land on it. If say they catch bee, because they've been known also to catch bees or wasps, anything that can sting them, you'll always see them trying to beat them on the ground before going back to their place where they are going to eat their prey. Way in the background there, we got other birds, as I said earlier, and those egrets, which are very big than the normal cat egrets. And remember, we are coming to you live.
Right, so as you can see, little Tlalamba is awake just because a vehicle is leaving the sighting at the moment, and so she just gave a half glance and a bit of a stretch, but otherwise is still a very, very sleepy cat, that's for sure. And I don't think she's too enthused to start actually moving today. Well, not now at least. I think she'll start a little bit later, but for now I think she's happy just to take it seriously easy. I think she can be thankful though that there's a little breeze that's blowing today. Without that breeze, it would have been very, very warm afternoon. We would have had probably temperatures that would have gone into the higher 30s, but there's this nice cool breeze that's kind of coming through, and I can tell you from being in the shade where we are, that the breeze is most welcome. It cools things down quite nicely. So her being slightly raised on the bank with the wind blowing most certainly is going to be helping her to just stay cool. You can see that little tummy that's got a little bump in it. Like I said, she's well fed this week. She's had a Nyala, an Impala, and 3 different scrub hares, as far as I know, in the last 4 days. So she's most certainly done well when it's come to food. Absolutely beautiful though.
Coming out at every 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 9,
As you can see, our cat is just kind of every now and then again twitching. The ears are moving a little bit and her paw is twitching. She's had quite a few insects also landing in her ears. At this time of the day, in this heat, we often get a lot of biting flies that land, and also a thing called a stingless bee or mopani bee, and they are attracted to moisture. And so when they see the gloss of an eye or the gloss on the nose, particularly the shine on the nose or around the mouth area, they're attracted to that and they land on that and they can drive her absolutely mad. So when you see her ear flicking or her kind of moving her head or her paw coming over her head, that's all just to try and keep these flies away and try and get them away. Obviously, it's an endless battle and doesn't really deter them that much. I mean, we all know we've had flies around us or, insects trying to land on us, and when you swat them away, they often just circle back. But she keeps doing it just because her ears are very, very sensitive. So you can imagine when they touch those hairs in that ear or when they touch the eyelid or around the nose, all of those are very, very sensitive spots for her. And so she has a situation where she's got to be able to kind of get them out of there because it irritates her so much. And that's why you'll find that ear does flick from time to time. You can also see how she listens all the time. So whenever there's a little gust of wind, she'll listen. She knows there's information being carried on that wind, not only from sound, but also from smell as well. So Billy is 8 years old. I like this because you're asking, if I was Kalamba, what would I do for the day? Billy, I think I would probably do much like what she did this morning, which was take a little walk through the bush. It was a beautiful morning. There was a nice, cool, crisp morning with a beautiful sunrise. So I would have walked a little bit. I would have found a nice termite mound where I would have watched the sunrise and watched that coming up. And then I think I would have tried to go and look for a snack. And if I didn't find anything there, then I think I would have made my way to a big, beautiful tree to go and rest. But it sounds like something exciting is happening up in Kenya, so it's quickly send you across there.
So there are zebras that were on our side. One of them has decided to cross. Now, when you look at the river, I think Big Jim is gonna pan a little bit. You can see one of the croc is swimming so fast heading to the river because we can see another zebra crossing now. Yes, it's happening, but not in a big number. I think only 2 decided to cross. Yeah, there's a second one crossing. There's a third one also. Wow, this is happening to you live from the Masai Mara. Now, this is one of the spectacular actions that happen during this migration time. It's not a big number, but only a few that were on this side. They've decided to join the rest of the zebras across. How nice. Despite the crocodiles being there, they are determined to go across. I can see some crocs swimming in. Oh yeah, look at that house. She is jumping. Remember I told you these guys are so brave. Sometimes you see them jumping over the crocs. Yes, and that was it. Only 4 decided to cross. From the big number that we have on the other side, I'm not sure if the other ones will decide to come across. These ones are the ones that are lucky to get across. So zebras are very brave. It's so interesting to watch them when they're crossing the river. They look like they've not even done anything. That was as simple as A, B, C, D, as we call it sometimes. So these 4 will join the rest. Those 2 look like, where are the rest of the herds? You need to join us here. Look at how simple that was. Sometimes when the crocs are basking on the riverbanks and the wildebeest or zebras come in, before they are aware and go into the water, these guys will have crossed over to the other side. So interesting to see. I can hear some other zebras calling. Maybe they want to join the rest. And so we'll still be waiting here to see if the rest of the zebras join those four. Look like they're still wet and running to join the rest of the herd.
Those crossings are always so full of drama, and especially when you've got so many animals trying to go across these croc-infested waters. It's a crazy thing to witness. But Billy, I was still describing my day at Kalamba, but then I was basically, what I was going to say is that I'd find a nice shady spot, preferably a really big tree with a nice big straight branch, and I think I'd lie in that tree for most of the day while it's hot, and then in the afternoons I would go and try and find something to drink, and have a bit of water, and then probably I would just go and kind of walk about and go and see what there is to see, maybe go watch some elephants, go and watch some buffalo, I don't know, whatever it comes my way, and then hopefully try and find some dinner. So that's what I think I would do if I was to be a day in Tlalamba's shoes. I wonder what she would do if she was in your shoes, Billy. That would be quite interesting, is to see what she would do if she was an 8-year-old child, and then as a human, I think she would be lots of fun. She would probably enjoy playing, that's for sure. She already does at her age. She constantly is busy, so she has lots of energy. And I suppose, actually, if you think about it, she's a little bit older than that now. She's almost 3 now. But she's kind of the equivalent of a teenager in adult years, around sort of 14, 15 years old. But it's been so nice to be seeing her so much. Now remember, we are coming to you live from all over Africa, so remember #WildEarth if you want to ask questions. But we're going to stay with Tlalamba and see what she gets up to.
Beautiful always to see the princess of Djuma Tlalamba. I mean, that female, when you talk of leopardesses that are cute, she is one of those cute leopards, as is my female sandal-billed stock here. I'm saying my female sandal-billed stock because apparently it just looks in the eye and I saw a yellow eye. And that's how you tell males from females of these very beautiful stocks. When I just think of it, and the lilac-breasted roller we were seeing, in terms of size, I would say she follows the roller in terms of colors. Has the black, the white, the orange, and yellow, but nothing to match or to beat the lilac-breasted roller. Again, just like the roller we were seeing before, you'll see them solitary. When you have seen many birds, many stocks, sometimes being omnivores, they'll feed on both carnivores and anything green they can catch. But this particular one here is strictly carnivorous. Fish, amphibians in the water, if you get frogs, if you get crabs in the water, any crustaceans, any invertebrates they can catch with their long beaks. Look at that yellow sandal there, and that's how they got their name, sandal-billed stock, like the sandal for the horse riders. At the very base of the neck, if it was a male, you get some small little yellow wattles hanging there, and the males have dark brown eyes. Tall stalks, in flight, huge wingspans, just near water. And apparently she seems to be kneeling down and now going to a sitting position, because while standing, they are over 1.5 meters. Oop! Is that a yawn? I would think so. And the second one, we have seen many cats, when they yawn, they always rise, stretch, and move away. Let's find out if our stock will do the same, or will stay in the same position. Maybe I'll wait here a few more seconds, see if the mate will come as we take you to another location.
So when last you were with us, we had that one rhino lying out right in the open at a dried up watering hole, and it seems to be the trend for this morning because we found another two. You can see these ones right here. Again, no water in this pan, so I think perhaps they were coming just to see if there was maybe a little bit of mud, and they were unfortunately unsuccessful. You can see the one on the left. If you zoom right in, you can actually see how many flies are on that poor rhino. Now, I think it would have been really nice for her to get a really nice mud wallow. You know, it helps protect from the parasites and the flies. And I think it would have made her a little bit more comfortable had she found some nice mud. You can even see that there's an oxpecker on her back. It's calling right now. It's one of the first signs when you're walking that you actually find some rhino. You listen out for that call. And it's busy trying to find some ticks that are all over her back. The specialized ticks called rhino ticks that you find on white and black rhino. They're specialized because they need to be able to get through the thick skin. They've got very, very thick skin, these rhino. Now these two, it's quite an interesting pairing we've got here. Now I'm sure you've seen some pairs of rhinos out in the wild, but you don't always see them together, especially a male and a female like this. The one on the left that we're looking at, that is a female, and the one on the right is the male. The only way you can tell the difference really is to look between the legs. There's no special trick with rhino. You've just got to look between the legs and decide for yourself. And the reason I say it's an interesting pairing is that the males and females don't tend to hang out together. The males actually have to court the females for a very long period of time, and even then you'll see the females very, very on edge. Now if we're watching their behavior, you can see that they're quite close. The female doesn't seem disturbed by the male at all. She's not focusing her attention on him. Even at this distance, she's not huffing or snorting, showing her discomfort, which shows that she's very, very relaxed with him around. And that would not be the case unless he had been courting her for a very long period of time. And just based on their size, I think they are just slightly younger. So my guess is that these are two younger sub-adults that have joined together to hang out just for a bit of added protection, to make them feel a bit more comfortable walking around the bush while they're still getting used to being by themselves. You know, the males will only reach their breeding age about 10 to 12 years, so I think he is a bit young. So we'll sit and watch these two for a little while. I think hopefully they're going to start feeding maybe a little bit closer, and we're going to stop and enjoy this.
We have my favorite Triagama, the male. It has to be the male. That head is so bright that we spotted it from, wow, quite far away. The females are not that bright. They still have a streak of blue, but it's really, really not as sort of vibrant turquoise, if you like, as this one is. And they really do camouflage into the bark of this Jacobray. But once you get closer, that head, there's no way you could camouflage that head. And this particular agama species, the Triagama, there's different species of agamas, but the Triagama is the largest of sort of South Africa agama species, and the largest is about 40 centimeters in length. Now, I don't quite know what that is in inches, but I guess in around 15 inches, over 12 anyway, from their snout to their tail, which is quite long. It's a small lizard. It's not a big one. Nothing in comparison to the monitor lizards that we get out here. Is it eating something? Hello. Very handsome. Now, unlike their very close relatives, skinks and geckos, even your house gecko, they can't shed their tail. So if you pick up a gecko, which I don't recommend anybody to do, they'll get such a fright that they'll drop their tail. They'll cut it off and they'll jump away, and you'll be left with their tail in your hand, and it will most likely still be wriggling, which is not very pleasant. The animal will still survive, and it's just a way to escape predators. It's fantastic sort of method of escaping a predator, especially one that's coming behind you. They're going to bite your tail and you're going to cut off your tail and run away and manage to escape. But tree agamas cannot do that, I'm afraid. They use a completely different tactic, and they try to always utilize the tree. So any threat that comes in, they always try to hide behind the tree. And that's why you'll see them circling and circling and circling round the trees whenever they see something approaching. The tree is their tactic. It's their guard. It's their security. And they also have very painful bites. Stuck in bed, I actually have a wonderful photo for you that I'm going to try and find. Hold on a moment. And it clearly shows you the difference between male and female. Now bear with me 2 seconds. Here we go, Beaky. Now it's on the right hand side, Beaks. And just here, this one here, you'll see is the female. And she's really not colourful at all. Oops, see, it's windy. This is why books are not ideal. You see, she's really dull and drab. She doesn't have that bright blue head. She's got a little shimmer of blue in her, but she's nothing like the breeding male. Now, the males can get a lot more colourful. If you just want to swing over to this one, you see, it's not just the head. They can get really blue and it extends all the way down their body. But this is normally when they're breeding. And it's sort of a dominant male. They are very territorial anyway. And they're very territorial of their little trees, the tree agamas. The males will fight. They can fight to the death. And as I mentioned, they do have really painful bites. And it can inflict a lot of pain on the enemy and even humans. So not recommended that we touch these beauties. So we're going to keep bumbling south and see what we can find.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Masai Mara. We have a croc here. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Now we have a Nile croc right by the waters there. Also, we have something interesting. We have zebras that want to cross the river. Remember, we're coming to you live, #Safari Live, Wild Earth. And for the young viewers, kids questions at wildearth.tv, and at the YouTube question section, please send your questions at FC. Now, this is very interesting to see because a little while earlier we had some zebras that decided to cross the river. Now we have some other zebras that are waiting again to come and cross. So as we're waiting here, this croc has really bled in. Big camouflage there. You can hardly see if there's a croc there. A very good thing to see. Now when the animals are crossing, sometimes they can trample over because you don't know whether it's a rock or a croc. This is how the camouflage plays in the wild. Now it's cooling down here. A good time for the crocodiles to go into the water. But as it cools down, we have others that want to come and drink. And that time, they fall prey to these gigantic crocs. So crocodiles utilize the path that are frequently used by the animals coming to drink water. And sometimes these animals use the hippo path to come and drink water. Now, we had about 4 crocodiles around here. Some of them went in because we had a few zebras that had crossed. Now, from where we are, we have lots of wildebeest and zebras. Not quite sure why some decided to cross and some others have been left behind. Simply because of grazing ground sometimes. Now, when we have lots of rain on either side, this attracts animals to cross to the either side. Where Big Jim is pointing, it's a crossing point, and that is the path that most animals use to cross from. Now, this area is called the main crossing. Along the Mara River of Kenya here, it runs about 60 kilometers through the Mara. And within the Masai Mara Game Reserve, this is the main action place, where the main crossing where the wildebeest cross at, or zebras as well. We have Sugar, thank you so much for your question. Has ever crocodile died from being trampled by the animals? Not that I've known, not that I've seen. I've never seen a crocodile die from being trampled by the animals. Because of how they submerge in the water, so it's hard for them to be trampled. The only thing that I've seen kill our crocodile is the hippo. So it's because of the buoyancy and how they swim in and out, it's hard for them to be trampled in the water. Now, the torrent is not strong, so this makes it easy for animals to come and cross. And sometimes they're also very clever, because where there's rapids and rocks, you find the zebras or wildebeest using those points. So as we wait here, we're going to take you to other parts of this live safari.
Well, I think we're all patiently waiting, but Kalamba's starting to yawn a little bit, which is a good sign for us. That means that she's starting to wake up a little bit. She's starting to feel like the day is getting to that point where she can potentially start to move around. Yawning is always a great sign in cats. If you see cats yawning, it's typically an indication that they're starting to think about moving. And moving could be as much as rolling over onto the other side of her body. It could be standing up and doing a turn and lying back down, or it could be starting to get up to actually walk for the duration of the afternoon. So we'll just have to be patient in order to find out what the yawns are that she's having and what that indicates to us. But for now, still fairly kind of sleepy. Not often you get to spend time with her like this. Generally, if she's not on the only time she's like this is normally if she's got a kill somewhere close by, then she sleeps like this. But it's not common to see her napping like this without a kill. All right, well, we're going to be patient. Like I said, the yawns might indicate that she's going to hopefully move sometime soon. And, well, we'll just have to be patient and wait for it.
So just like you were being patient with that leopard and see if she starts to move, we've been a bit patient with these rhino, and they have rewarded us by coming a little bit closer. And you can see that they're just stopping and actually facing their rear ends towards each other, just because they're a bit unsure of what's happening around them. I think they've heard me start speaking now. Their eyesight is quite poor, I'm sure you've heard that before. So they rely very heavily on their sense of sight and their sense of sound. I think now they're just trying to figure out what exactly we are. It's such a treat to see them start to slowly come towards us, though. So, Bryce, it's a very good question with regards to the rhino population. It is, with white rhino, I think it is still decreasing. They are still quite heavily endangered, and we are still losing a huge amount every day. The good news is that the black rhino population is on the uprise. I know a few years ago it was around 4,500. Now we're looking that it's in the 500s. And our white rhino population is about 19,000. Unfortunately, until something drastic happens with the demand for rhino horn, we are most likely going to still see a decrease in the population of white rhino. And it's decreasing quite steadily. I think they say that on average we lose about 2 every day. So that's quite a dramatic number of rhino, considering that their gestation is like 15 to 16 months, and the calves have to stay with the mothers for 2.5 to 3 years at least. So you can think, to replace those numbers, how difficult it's going to be with a population of about 19,000. So we are not out of the woods yet. Hopefully, we are going to see a decrease in the demand for the rhino horn, because it is just keratin, it's just the stuff that our fingernails and our hair is made out of. So there's really no scientific evidence that it has any medicinal properties. Luckily, at and beyond Phinda, we've got a very, very low poaching rate. In fact, I think in the last 3 years we've lost 1 rhino to poaching. So we are very lucky to be able to enjoy a site like this and not have to worry about losing them. And that is largely due to the dehorning that we do. You can see that their horns are cut off, and we do that periodically because they do grow back. So it's not a one-time fix. That poor rhino, you can see its tail's right up. It looks a bit constipated. You often see animals lift their tails like that when they're trying to drop some of their dung. I think this one's just struggling a little bit. And see how beautifully these two are feeding together. It's quite lovely to sit with animals for a little while, because when we first got here, they were quite nervous. They were just trying to figure out what we were. And you can see as they start to relax, they start to feed, and they carry on as if you're not even there. It's wonderful to just sit and watch them feed and walk away. Stuck in bed. Firstly, what a fantastic name for COVID. I have to just give you applause for that. I think that's brilliant. What can we do to help our rhino? There's so many things we can do, and the main thing is just education. And just watching shows that you're watching now, watching live streams and educating yourself on the importance of conservation, that's going a long way, because the more people who understand the importance and the needs for reserves like this, the more support they're going to get, and the better chance we have of keeping them alive. I think reserves that exist to sort of keep these animal populations are really the only solution. There's a lot of money that goes into it. We need land. Ultimately, land is the key. And I suppose anything you can do to contribute to certain funds, like the Black Rhino Range Expansion Project and Rhinos Without Borders are 2 fantastic sort of initiatives that we've taken that are trying to help the population of rhino. Rhinos Without Borders are sending rhino to Botswana to try and start a population there where the poaching is much, much lower than South Africa. And Black Rhino Range Expansion Project is a similar sort of concept where we're trying to expand the range of the black rhinos so we can have a more healthy genetic population. And I think the main thing is just education. The more people who understand the difficulties that rhino face, and more people that understand that really there's nothing behind this myth of rhino horns doing anything medicinal, the better these rhinos, the better chances the rhinos will face.
So again, unfortunately, we have a few little technical issues out in the bush, and as you can see with Kalamba, she's rolled over now. She's decided to lie on the other side, which is what we were saying earlier. Those yawns sometimes indicate that she's just going to just change positions a little bit. But she has been yawning again, so I'm hoping that she's going to start moving. I mean, she doesn't look like it, I know, and I keep saying it, but eventually you'll see she'll get up and she'll begin her movements, hopefully, towards the riverbed here where it's nice and open and beautiful clear sand where we can get some nice views. She's absolutely magnificent, though. And I love the color of her coat. So yesterday was with Sibui's cub, who's a very different color. But it sounds like there's action in the Masai Mara, so we're going to send you up there.
So back to the Mara, we have new visitors that have joined in with the zebras. We have wildebeest, and luckily one of them has decided to cross. Now these other ones are waiting to see if there's any casualty or maybe join them. Now they're slowly gathering to the bank. See, the zebra is leading now, while the other wildebeest has decided to head back. So this is exciting because we had a few that just crossed to that side, and now they've all decided to come back again, unsure of what runs into their mind. Now a few wildebeest have also joined in to go across. One of the wildebeest has decided to cross. Now as we wait here, we have crocodiles downstream, and I think because they have a sharp eye, they've decided to go upstream on a very safe place where at least they can cross with ease. So sometimes it's going to becomes a game of patience, because they get to the edge and then head back. But this seems like they're all determined, because I can see some on the river already. Some have gone to the water, which is a good sign. So when the masses join in, there's pressure on the edge of the water, and so the ones just close to the water are pushed in to make the cross. Now we have, I think, zebras leading there, and a few that are watching. Oh, they've decided to come back. You don't know whether the big crocs are around, so you have to be careful before you cross. Remember, zebras they're so brave, such that sometimes when they're crossing and the big crocs come, I've seen them, and most of the time they've jumped over the crocodiles. So they're not yet decided. But I think the one that crossed over has given them a bit of pressure, because they can see them across. So these guys are all determined to come and cross. It's a cool time of the day, and I'm sure lots of crocs have gone back into the water. It seemed like quiet there, and a little bit deep. So some of the crocodiles can be waiting in the water without being detected or seen by these herbivores. There's pressure mounting there, and some of them not yet deciding what to do. But as I go back and forth, some drink water, which is also an attraction to why they cross. They come to the river, drink a little bit, and then cross. Now that seems like a point where they all might decide to cross. If not, they might walk downstream. The few wildebeest that, I don't know what, something spooked them. Now they're walking back. Yes, I think they've decided not to use that crossing point. Could be there's a croc in the water, and so they might go to, one is going downstream. I think he's decided to at least drink some water before he crosses over. But the rest are still waiting, not sure. So the leader, who is the zebra, will jump into the water. Crossing fingers for this, because it's so exciting to see how zebras really jump in and rush, cutting across the water. We don't have as leader yet, so we still have to wait patiently before we witness this spectacular. Remember, this is called a patience game because you might think that it's gonna happen soon. Sometimes it even takes up to 5 or more hours before they cross, playing the same cat and mouse game. But if I tell you, if there was a big herd, then it would have been easy for them. Zebras are quite careful when they're approaching such scenes. They have to look and watch because they know the crocs are there. The stallions, who are their leaders, are very, very keen watching over their mares. So when one decides to cross, then the rest will follow, knowing that it's safe for them to cut across. Now look at them. Seems like they're having a meeting out there. So who's gonna jump in first? So the zebras and the wildebeest are coming to a meeting saying, hey guys, do you wanna go in first? But I think the wildebeest are not responding yet. So the zebras have decided to head back. As we wait patiently here, we have crocs basking into the sun. They blend in so well and you can't really see. The reason why these zebras and wildebeest have gone upstream. Now downstream there's a very nice crossing area, but unfortunately there are crocs there. That is what is deterring them from actually using the simpler routes to cross. Seems like the wildebeest is waiting, not sure whether to cross because one of them has really crossed. While these other guys are watching over, seeing or making sure there are no crocodiles around here. Now I tell you where those zebras are. We had a few of them, four in number, that went across. Now they've decided to head back. We're going to wait patiently here to see what unfolds.
Showing there. Unfortunately, with those crossings, that's all you can do. Is you can sometimes sit for hours and hours and hours and wait, and you get these moments where they come down to the water's edge and then they turn and go back and forth. I remember once being in the Serengeti and we waited for 13 hours and they didn't cross, and we went back the next day and it was about another 9 hours until they eventually went over. So it sometimes can be a very long wait, and you just got to hope that eventually one of them makes the decision to cross. What we also need is our little leopard to make a decision to start waking up a little bit more. For now, she's still very much asleep. The good news is that the temperature has really dropped quite nicely now. It's far more pleasant, and she definitely is a lot more twitchy. Every time the wind is kind of gusting, she's starting to kind of lift her head slightly and look around, and she's definitely going to get up at some point. It's just a matter of when. So we'll just have to be patient in the hope that she does. But she's chosen such a perfect little spot for an afternoon nap because the sun is going to be setting behind where she is. And so with the raised little bank that she's lying up against, that's creating the most perfect shade for her. She doesn't have to worry at all now. You can see that hot spot that was on her is now gone, and up elevated like that, the breeze is just funneling down this little drainage line and blowing really nicely towards where she's sitting. So she's found a perfect little area. Now the scrub hare that she caught earlier is probably all gone. It's not something that lasts very long. They typically eat it quite quickly. It's not a meal that they would have stored somewhere, or she would have stored somewhere. She might find there's a leg or something that she hasn't finished, but I suspect that she's gobbled up most of it already. And so that won't hold her here once she's finished with her nap. She's not going to go and feed and then have to walk somewhere. I suspect that she's already eaten and it'll just be wake up and go. And I wouldn't be surprised, because of the heat of what we've had today, is that when she does wake up, is that her movement will be towards the nearest water. And from here, the nearest water is actually the main dam called Gowrie Dam. And that would probably be her closest place that she could go and drink. So I suspect that when she does get moving, it will be up the Mulawati drainage and towards water. Now there's a hyena that's going to approach us. You're not going to see it just yet, but it's coming down the road towards where she is, which is unusual because generally hyenas don't move very, very much at this time of the day. So it's just coming through the thicket on our left-hand side here, across from where she is. Hopefully it's going to make an appearance towards where we are. See how it's sniffing the air. So it's got its nose up, and she was unfortunately pestered by hyenas the whole morning. They were following her around, and I suspect what's happened is they've picked up her scent, and maybe the scent of the scrub hare that she killed earlier, and is now following it in. And what you'll see with that hyena is that it'll go, and then it'll eventually pick up where she's walked, and then it'll put its nose down, and it'll actually follow all the way to here. So we'll just be patient and wait. Pretty sure it'll eventually find this leopard, and then we'll get an idea of whether or not the scrub hare is finished or not, so if there's any little pieces, because that hyena will smell it and immediately rush in and try and take it if there is food. Otherwise she'll snarl and hiss,
Sorry about that, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. I'm not going to touch anything. Anyways, we're still at Ndlovu Dam, where the elephants have come and gone. There is just these two boys left having a bit of a tug of war. However, we did have a really funny moment. There was, I think, maybe 5 minutes ago, I kid you not, there must have been about 40 or 50 elephants all leaving the dam. They've had their wallows, they've swam, they've done their thing. And there are two buffalo bulls that have now arrived at the dam at the left-hand side. But they obviously weren't here. They were in the way of where the elephants were walking. So one was up on the dam wall and the other one was down, lower down. And I kid you not, one buffalo bull stood there and would not let any elephants pass. It was not moving. It was not doing anything. They are the most stubborn animals in the entire world. And all the elephants ran away, including Susan. Susan, she flared her ears out, she trumpeted, and she ran as fast as she could because of one buffalo. It was quite funny to see them all disperse like that. Boys, now you can have the entire dam to yourself. If that's what you wanted, you've achieved it. But it's more entertaining where Odie is heading to. That's because of the two young bulls. I'm sure it's the same two bulls that have been tussling all afternoon long. And maybe even the same two from this morning. Who knows? Still trying to size one another up, although they're actually of equal size. So it seems like it's a fair game here. RF, I'm not actually sure if I know the answer to this. You've asked at what tusk length does a bull become a tusker? I'm actually not sure. I'm sure. I haven't got a clue. I honestly don't know why I don't know the measurement. But if you, maybe there is a recording of it, and whether it has to do with thickness and length. I don't know why I don't know that. I feel like I do know that, and I've just completely forgotten about it. Do you know, Eddie? Oh, what are you doing? Just laugh. Oh, telling me to watch my head. Sorry. But none of these are tuskers just yet. It'll take them some time. So we've only got one real tusker that we see in this area. His name is Ezulwini. And then there's another big elephant by the name of Gap. He's quite big too, but I don't think he is even classified as a tusker just yet. So there must be some kind of a length with the savanna elephants. And I'm sure that will be different to the, I suppose, forest elephants get enormous tusks as well, and they grow so straight. But even in East Africa, there must be some difference between the elephants up there and the elephants down here in Southern Africa, because there is a notable difference in their tusk size and shape. But what that is, I have no idea what the measurement is. Sorry, RF. I've not been a good safari guide this afternoon. But is it Kumo that I think has arrived here? Don't worry about, we can maybe just look at these guys. They might be a bit easier to film. So Kumo was at my tent this afternoon. He has also been at the dam earlier today, but he's back again. And he came through and said hello to all the cows that have been around in camp. He's obviously been a bit sheepish as of late, because he had hiding from another elephant bull with a rather large tusk, and they call him One Tusker, and he's just disappeared. He kept away. He said, fine, you can have all the girls, that's fine, no problem, I'll wait until you leave. I like to live here anyways.
It's interesting to watch an elephant with one tusk. Wonder where the other tusk went to. Our zebras and wildebeest have decided to leave the river. They're walking upwards towards the plains. Not quite sure what spooked them, but I think there might be some big crocs there that they saw and decided to walk a different way. Now, probably maybe they might try and walk around and head downstream, as most of the crocs are not around in their vicinity. They've gone into the water. They might decide to cross there. But I think one of the zebras that has a different option or opinion, I think is facing the other direction. Look at him. He's still determined to go back to the water. And well, he stops to stay around that area. The rest have also stopped to look around. Now remember, zebras have a sharp eyesight. So when they're congregating with wildebeest, it becomes a good security for them, because the safety in numbers, and when these herds mix, then they play a vital role in security. He's decided to join them. And they'll still be grazing slowly, but they are determined to cross. It's only that we don't witness the crossing at night, but it's reckoned that, and also it has been witnessed by some other people, that indeed zebras and wildebeest cross at night. Only that we cannot be out here to show you that spectacular thing happen at night. Then we have a lot of impalas around here, which is a mixed herd also. They're playing an advantage because they have the wildebeest and the zebra around, so if there's any danger, any of them snorts or maybe gives an alarm, then they also run a different direction. Now, that is a raised area, an indication that when there's a predator walking around, these guys will be able to see. And that is one spot that they like resting at night. So most of the plain games, including impala, wildebeest and zebra, they congregate at night at one raised area where they're able to see all around, like 360 degrees angle. So those zebras have decided to run, while others have decided to walk. Maybe they might go to a different crossing point. We have multiple crossing points along the Mara River within the reserve and within the Mara Triangle. Remember, this river cuts across in the park about 60 kilometers. So with that 60 kilometers, can you imagine how many crossing points there are? But this is the major one, the major crossing point. We call it the main crossing. Yeah, you have to look around because at this time of the evening is when predators might try to go for an ambush. Leopards at this time are stretching, trying to wake up. About time to go for their activity, which is to hunt. It's getting cooler here, so a good temperature for them to cross the river. Now, as we wait for them, because this is a game of patience, we still be around here to see if they might decide to come back to the river.
Well, that's right, Timothy. Patience is very important where you are. I mean, when you go for crossing, you'll have to sit there and wait until, luck strikes once in a while. You'll get those herds of animals crossing. Now, I've also been very patient with an eagle here. Only that's a bit far now. I don't want to ask you the name of it because of the distance. It's not very well defined where she is, but this is a long-crested eagle. I've been following her for the last 10 minutes. And the reason I've been doing that, I've seen her trying to hunt a lamb of an impala. I haven't seen that before. I've associated such big prey with big, predators like the martial eagles, especially the females. But this long-crested eagle has been following a baby impala for like a whole 10 minutes. So every time she sees where they are, she flies, patches herself, tries to calm down, and the mother runs with the baby. 3 times. The 4th time, the mother and the baby have entered in those thickets. And I think that was the end of the game for this long-crested eagle. I have never seen a long-crested eagle hunting such a big prey. Normally, they'll go for rodents, rats, mice, small little reptiles like lizards or agamas in the grass. You'll see them catching other smaller birds and they kill them on the ground or where they catch them, then fly somewhere like on top of a tree and feed. The other day I saw a tony eagle devouring an African rock python, which was very special. And I would say this could have been a big sighting for me to see a long-crested eagle hunting and probably getting a lamb of an impala. I just want to try and go a little closer and find out where that mother and the baby are. Maybe we may be able to see them because she hasn't moved. Every time she follows them, she stops at a place. So let me just go a little closer and find out if the mother and the baby are still there. I can see them. I'll just stop here. Are you happy, Zabungi? Keep going. So in a few seconds. So let's see if they can see both of them now. I've come a little closer to the eagle. And I want to show you first where the mother and the baby is before they disappear in the bushes. Because a male also have come in play. That is the mother. And that's the baby this eagle wants to hunt. So we saw that male come in very quickly. And I think they could all read that this eagle was up to no good. Look at the mother. She's not eating. She's very nervous. And she's quite concerned. Because they cannot trust this particular long-crested eagle here, which is not their norm to hunt such huge prey. She has patched 3 times. It's the 4th time. And I wouldn't want that impala to come out again with the baby. I'd want them to remain in the thicket because they have better chances of avoiding this raptor if they stay in the thick vegetation there. She goes, let's find out where she goes. You see? Still following them. And I'm sure she's got a patch on that tree there. Now she's directly above that baby. So if you look carefully, that's the male, and behind the male is the female with the lamb. Again, you notice she isn't eating, she isn't bothered, because she can tell there's a bit of concern here if her baby will be taken by this ego. It should be a first for me, and it's not surprising. I mean, we'll always have, hunts that are out of the norm out here in the African wilderness. We know what particular predators prey on, but once in a while we'll always see an unusual hunt or a predator going to what they're not normally used to. There she is. She's flying down. Okay, luckily she just flew over them. Taking a different tree. Very good camera work there, Bungay. But I'm very convinced she's very interested with this baby. See, the male has stopped eating also, because I'm sure he saw her fly above them. And going to be something interesting. Not sure she's trying to intimidate them, and then the mother will take off and leave the baby behind. Well, I'll spend a few moments here seeing what's going to unfold here as we take you to another live location.
So we've since left those rhinos and we came across this beautiful picturesque scene while driving through these open plains that you can see behind you. We were seeing if there was some cheetah activity in the area, and we came across a beautiful journey of giraffe. And this one actually we decided it was going to come and drink, so from far we came and positioned ourselves by the water, but it seems to have a very quick drink and walked off, so obviously it wasn't too thirsty. When you had a look at it, you could see that one was not in the best condition, so it's a little bit of an older giraffe. Just had a drink and is slowly walking away. It was quite interesting because there was a whole group of them, and this male here was actually with the group of giraffe and then wandered off on his own. And it's quite characteristic of giraffe, they don't have any lasting bonds. They've got what we call a loose association. So exactly what we're seeing now, he was feeding with them, he was spending time, and he's decided to walk off on his own. Although, as I speak, you can actually see him looking off to the right. And I think what he's doing is he's watching those other giraffe down in the valley and is perhaps deciding whether or not he's going to join them again and feed with them as a group, or if he's going to go off by himself. And he seems to have decided to wander off on his own. It's quite interesting. They actually communicate by low frequency communicating. So, Thomitra, there's been quite a bit of debate about the different breeds of giraffe. What we're looking at here is a southern giraffe, and the most accepted sort of way seems to be the 4 different species. So we've got the southern giraffe, the northern giraffe, the reticulated giraffe, and the Maasai giraffe. And those are the most accepted sort of species. Now, it suddenly became like a recent discovery that they are in fact very different species. We always used to think that they were all the same. And there's no huge difference in terms of the actual sort of patterns and coat patterns. They don't look distinctively different, but they are genetically different, and so different that they won't even mate in a wild environment. Yeah, so with those species of giraffe, the reticulated and the northern are the ones that we are most concerned about. You know, reticulated have about 8,700 left, and the northern giraffe have about 4,750. And the reticulated giraffe are probably the most easy to tell apart, as they have white streaks down their legs, and the Maasai giraffe are more distinguished because they're apparently generally darker, although you can get, darker variations in all the species. We're going to carry on looking for any signs of this cheetah, and hopefully we find something this afternoon.
Well, cheetah would be an absolute treat. It's always nice to see the cheetahs on the plains of East Africa. I've got some fond memories of following some of the cheetah around there in the Mara Triangle. As you can see, not much has changed here with our rosetted cat, Klalamba. She's still sleepy and taking it very easy. I'm surprised because, like I say, it's a lot cooler than it was. The hyena didn't actually come this way. It looked at her for a while and gazed longingly and then decided, nope, and walked off. So maybe there's somewhere else that hyena needs to be. Also, I think I just saw a cuckoo fly past, which would be the first cuckoo that I've seen this summer. It was definitely cuckoo-shaped, and it went flying past us. Of course, we do get a cuckoo hawk here, which can sometimes be a little bit confusing in flight, but it did look like one. It would be interesting if we start to hear some of the cuckoos calling in the next few weeks, but it'll be exciting. And the cuckoo that I saw, if it was a cuckoo flying over, would have been either the common or European cuckoo, so one of the grey ones. I haven't seen any signs or heard any signs of Diederik or classes yet, but they should be fairly soon. As we get to October, we normally start to hear the cuckoos and start to see them coming through, particularly Diederik. They're often the first ones, and then followed by classes, and then followed by Jacobin and Levalence as we start heading towards November. Now, you're asking if leopards are the most independent cat. Not necessarily. I suppose across the board, male and female, of the big cats, yes. Because they, both male and female, are not going to form prides or coalitions, whereas cheetah, lions, you'll get males that will form coalitions in cheetah, and obviously in lions is a pride structure and male coalition, so they are both. But I'm just trying to think, if we're talking cats worldwide, then no, there's other cats that are out there that behave very similar to leopard. In fact, I had a wild cat a few days ago, which was really, really cool. Unfortunately, I think I scared the daylights out of that wildcat because we heard birds' alarm calling, and I came around the corner and this wildcat just saw us and just bolted. So they're pretty much on their own unless they're mating. Servals on their own unless they're mating. Black-footed cat, these kinds of things are all jaguars, tigers to a degree as well, if they don't have cubs as a female. So there's a number of different cats out there that have a very similar life that a leopard does in terms of its solitary nature, but in terms of the African big cats, yes, it is the sort of most, it's the one that spends the most time on its own as a loner. It would be really cool, though, if you could get a male coalition. Imagine how amazing that would be to have sort of 3 male leopards moving around together. I think they would cause havoc. It would be quite fun to watch what they'd bring down. We know male leopards are powerful creatures, and already we've seen male leopards in the past take down young giraffe, rhino calves, buffalo calves, fairly large male kudu. And so you can imagine if there was 3 or 4 of them together, what they would actually be capable of. It would be quite fascinating to watch. Of course, this probably wouldn't happen, but you never know. Strange things happen in nature, and you can never say never. Who knows, going forward in the future, maybe there will be 2 males that just decide to hang around together for a long period of time. But it's highly unlikely, that's for sure. And would be, I think, something that would cause quite a stir. Anyway, Tlalamba, we are going to be patient. We're going to wait. Hopefully she's going to wake up. I'm sure that she will. It's getting to the right time of day.
Talking about leopard, we have impalas which fall into the diet of leopard. So this is one of the preferred prey for leopards. Now here we have a harem. A harem means that we only have one ram who is the prime leader of all these ewes. Now ram impalas will defend and protect the females from other intruding males. So when the males get to about the age of about three years, they are kicked out and they form what we call a bachelor herd. Now this herd here has lots of babies, and some of them seems like they're about 2 weeks or some are 3 weeks old. Now these females will stay around together, and when it comes to the next mating season, some of the bachelor rams, which are big, will try and come and oust this male out. Interesting thing is, these rams mark their own territory, very big territory, about 15 kilometers, some even 13, but 15 is normal average size of a territory. Now they will walk within those territory and defend them from other intruders. Now when the bachelors come across a herd like this, they have to be submissive to the dominant ram. Slowly, I think Big James is going to pan slightly to the right. We see if we can find the ram who is the leader of this entire harem or herd. If he keeps on panning to the right, yeah, there we go. So when these females go astray, or maybe if they walk or wander out of the territory, he slowly and quietly herds them back into one group. Very interesting behavior to watch. Look at their white tails. So these impalas, sometimes they perform a very unique jump, which we call pronking. And when they are pronking, which is a design that they use sometimes to deter away predators, and sometimes when the predators see that, they see how strong they are, and while doing that, they flash off the underparts of the tails. So females live together. The only species of male that lives here are when they get about 3 years of age. Look at that little one nursing. How cute is that? Sam, thank you so much for your question. Where do the antelope herds go at night? So, antelopes will prefer a safe place to go at night. So during the night, they will pick a raised platform, a raised area, where they will go and lay there and stay there for the entire night. A place where it's safe for them to watch over a 360-degree angle. This means that they have to come to a secure place, an open place, no trees, no bushes, an open place where they can be able to watch over for any predator that might be coming their way. So back to impalas, this is one herd that is dominated by that ram. And if he looks around and see that some of them are walking a different way, he'll quickly run and herd them back to one group. Seems like he's got some scratch there, but while still enjoying his grass. How cute is this to watch?
I'm sure they are enjoying the grass. The sweet plains of East Africa are generally very good for animals to eat. What's also being enjoyed is a very heavy nap by Tlalamba at the moment. She, as you can see, has not moved a single inch. Her tail is flopped up every now and then, but otherwise she is in whatever dream world cats go into when they are in full slumber mode. So we're just patiently waiting. I've been sitting just enjoying the sounds of the bush and been taking it very, very easy this afternoon and been looking for an odd bird that's been flying past. It's such a nice spot to be in when you're in this kind of Mulawati section. Beautiful leadwoods and jackalberries, and it's got this kind of little riverbed that runs down away from us, and so it's a pretty location to spend a bit of time, especially when our leopard is sleeping. So lots to kind of look around at and see. You can see some of the bush willows on the left-hand side are flowering at the moment and getting their leaves. It's always an exciting time of the year to be in the bush. I absolutely love in this time of the year. Everything goes through this change. You go from this drab, dry wilderness where it looks like everything has been scorched and there's nothing really alive, and then all of a sudden you get these explosions of flowers and leaves and insects and birds coming back as they make their migratory routes down towards us. And it's just such a nice time to be in the bush, to watch that change and to see everything come to life. So even when you sit with a leopard like this, it's always good just to look around and appreciate where you are. And given that this is going to be my last afternoon for the next little bit, it's nice to sit with the leopard and just take it all in before I head back home. It's always a good thing to make the most of your time out in the bush, that's for sure. Since depends on the area as to how big a territory is for a leopard. So a leopard's territory in the Sabi Sands versus a leopard's territory in the Masai Mara versus a leopard's territory at Tswalu are very, very, very different. And the reason for that is mostly based off density, so competition from other individuals, as well as availability of food and water. So in Tswalu Kalahari, as we know, the ability to hold huge amounts of animals is not quite as good as it is here. And so what you find there is less amounts of food and water for a leopard to be able to go after, and that means that the territories are much larger. So some leopards in those areas can have territories as much as 30,000 hectares or 60,000 acres, whereas leopards here in the Sabi Sands, the average female territory is between 4,000 and 5,000 hectares. So what's that? 8,000 to 10,000 acres. So you can see it's a very, very big distance or difference between the two. Male territory is generally larger than female, so most of the male territories within the Sabi Sands are between sort of 6,000 and 8,000 hectares, or let's call it 12 to 16,000 acres, whereas some of the male territories in the Kalahari ecosystem can be as much as 100,000 hectares or 200,000 acres. So, it's a very big discrepancy, and it's all based off resources and competition in the form of other leopards as to how many you get. Well, Patience Game is carrying on, and hopefully we'll be rewarded at some point. Right, well, it sounds like there's been technical difficulty somewhere across Africa, and so you're back with the sleepy Tlalamba at this stage. She still hasn't changed much movement at all. What is interesting, though, is there's a little bit of a wind that's picked up. It's starting to get heavier, and wind is often a motivator for cats to start moving. High winds can often mean that they can have more success in hunting, particularly swirling winds. It confuses the prey animals quite a lot. It also makes a lot of noise. There's rustling of leaves and grasses, and it makes it much harder for certain prey animals, in particular things like Nyala, which is what she'll be hunting in drainage lines like this, for them to hear what's going on. And so often you find when it's windy that cats start to move around a little bit. and start to try and find food, especially given that it's also the sun is starting to get low now. It's much cooler than it was earlier, and so it's about time for her to begin her afternoon's kind of movement. But again, I kind of feel sorry for her in a way, and hope that she is having a good nap, because, well, she walked so far last night that in many ways she's deserving of a bit of a rest this afternoon. She's did a serious march last night, and when we were talking about it this morning, she must have covered over 20 kilometers during the course of yesterday evening. So she has earned a break, and as much as we want her to move, I think it's good for her to have a little bit of a snooze. But you can see up there the sun just starting to kind of drop down to the horizon as the afternoon wears on, and it really is much, much, much shadier than what it was, and cooler, and like I say, the wind is picking up, so I'm hoping she'll start to move. So this is a very, very South African viewer that we have. Lekker, which is a great word for today, because today is Heritage Day in South Africa. And you're asking, do leopards recognize their siblings as adults? So there will be an element, I think, that they recognize a certain scent profile. They've got very sophisticated ability to recognize scent, and so, you know, their organ of Jacobson will have picked up a scent, and it will probably be familiar to them. But you must remember, when they become adults, even as siblings, they are not going to be interested in, you know, accommodating one another, because they're competition for food, unless, of course, it's a sister, and by some weird situation her litter mate was a male, and he has become territorial within his sister's territory, then you might find that they will actually mate. But whether or not there's a recognition, and as if to say, well, you're my litter mate and I, you know, that's going to change my behavior, probably not. They will either see each other as competition, if it's two females or two males, or you're going to get a situation where the drive and will to mate will outweigh that scent of familiarity, and they will actually mate even if they are brother and sister. So even if they know one another, that doesn't change really much about their behavior. But I would be very shocked to hear if they could not recognize that individual profile and remember it from when they were siblings. Ultimately, some leopards will spend the first 2 years of their life around one another and picking up each other's scent. Okay, well, patience is a virtue, and like I say, eventually we will be rewarded. We just have to apply patience as much as possible.
It's always interesting when we're watching leopards, especially at this time of the evening. Now here we have two lionesses that are relaxing from a long, hot day. Now, they're cooling off their stomach. As you can see, the one to the left is actually lying upside down. So the last heat or the last warmth of the day is actually what they're grasping before it gets dark and cool, before they start their routine where they begin patrolling over and trying to find something to eat. Now, lionesses play a vital role in a pride, whereas that they are the ones that will always hunt and, of course, raise the young. So in a lion pride, if cubs are born to be females or maybe lionesses, they never leave the natal pride. Only the males leave the pride. So these two are from the Mugoro pride, and I'm sure because we have lots of game around here, they might go for something tonight. Still warm, and the ground is still warmer there. Before they were in a thicket, but now they've come into the open because the sun is almost setting. So a good time for them to grasp the last heat or warmth of the day. Seems like one of the lioness there, one of the teeth is protruding. Not quite sure if she might be pregnant. And if she's pregnant, then it's a good sign because at this time of the year to give birth, there is also a possibility that the cubs will be healthy because of lots of game around here.
As you can see, Tlalamba has picked up her head, and that's because there's a hyena that came right up towards where she was, behind us, and then decided to turn around and walk back. And it's kind of just standing behind us at the moment, and she's just watching, kind of staring at this hyena, which, well, is looking quite menacing behind us. It's got its mouth open and showing all of its teeth, so not surprised that she's staring at it, really. But she's kind of giving it this over-the-shoulder, cold, stern stare, as if to say, you've woken me up from my sleep. I'm not impressed, but I think she's going to potentially flop back down again now that she's realized the hyena's not posing much of a threat to her at all. But you can see how difficult it is for these leopards at the moment, especially here on Djuma, central Djuma particularly. If you think that we've got the hyena den is centrally located within this part of the property, and what that means is that every time these cats hunt and they are going after something, generally they're being trailed by a hyena somewhere, and that means that their kills are being robbed from them extensively over the course of their sort of time, and so it becomes tricky. I mean, you can see now, even if she was to hunt now, this hyena will steal it from her before she'll be able to get it up into a tree. So, you know, they have a tough time with that, and they've got constantly in a situation where they're trying to kind of outmaneuver the hyenas, get away from them, put distance, be able to catch food, be able to get it up into a tree so it doesn't get stolen. And it's this chess game that is constantly playing out, and it's not easy out here for that. Hyenas are really clever, and they have incredible senses of smell and hearing, and so they can pick up these leopards pretty quickly, and you often will find a hyena first and then a leopard, particularly early morning and late evening. All right, well, we'll see if the hyena comes back. It's just sniffing around right behind the car here, so I'm hoping it does come in and we'll see the two interact. But again, we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, that might be, excuse me, a big drama coming up there over hyena and the leopardess. Now, I left my long-crested eagle because it looked a bit difficult for her to get in the thicket. And the clever, I would say, impala went much deeper in the bushes with her baby. I'm just hearing a lion calling, not from where, but not sure from exactly where. But I have another feathered friend here, and I would like you to tell me who this is. I don't think I've given you a quiz on my birding today. Hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter, at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels, or Kids Question at wildearth.tv. Who do you think this is? Excuse me, I'm sure you have seen how many times. They're ground nesters. This should be a good clue. And everything to them is done on the ground. Two of them. Just this is a male and a female. Beautiful light. So we cannot mistake them. Should be a very straightforward ID. Thank you, Bungai, for bringing them much closer to the screen. So we're getting all the specs. All what we need to know who this is. Of course, feeding, looking for any worms or anything they can catch. Rookie, jumbo, and very well done, Rookie. You say Aspar-winged lapwing. Excellent. Very good. Very good. You got it correct. And she's just walking next to some giraffe dung there. All those black pellets, Rookie, you're seeing there from a giraffe. And I remember when I was in college, I was told when you see giraffes pooping, the males will do it when they're walking, while the females will always stop and do it. So I guess that was a male giraffe that passed there. But either way, Rookie, very well done. These lapwings are very territorial. And I can tell you, if I would follow this particular pair very carefully, I might find them in the same general area every other time. Not all birds are territorial, but this particular species are very territorial. And when they have their young ones, or when they have their eggs, they protect them in a very big way. And they'll fight and face any bird. Of course, the first species they not allow here is, of course, a species of their own, the spur-winged lapwings. But then if they'll see the bigger birds, like raptors, or like the long-crested eagle we saw earlier, because they've been known to prey on their chicks, they'll always fight them back like a dog fight to their would-be predators. Well, I'll be moving on. I'm sure she's trying to dig something there for herself for early dinner and find out what else I would get for you as we move on to another colleague of mine.
We've got maybe not as much action as the Mara River, but Ndlovu Dam, of course, has been very busy all afternoon. And there's my favorite buffalo of all time, Tungsten. Hello. He's so funny with the way that his tongue hangs out of his mouth. In case you have no idea what on earth I'm talking about, we tend to see the same animals over and over here at Pridelands. We are so lucky. So it's not just the big cats, that become some of our favorite characters, but I've become quite fond of this particular buffalo and then a couple of the elephants here at Pridelands. So this buffalo, we don't know what happened to him, but his tongue is hanging out of his mouth, and it's been like this ever since we first met him. But he has movement, and watch when he lifts his head up, how he wiggles it. It's very funny. I can't, now turn your head the other way, Tungsten. I can't help but giggle every single time I see it. It's like it's got a mind of its own. I mean, buffalo's tongues are normally quite fizzy. I'd like to see him eat grass. You can see it hanging out now. But this is a group of Duggar boys, or buffalo bulls, that is actually growing in size. We started off with the 7 dwarves, as we joked and we called them, and now it has expanded to, how many are there? So I was trying to count in my head. You have to count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 10 buffalo bulls. No, 11. There's one on the dam wall as well, that have now all joined forces. And the bigger the better, because that way the lions hopefully won't bother them. Although there is one young male lion hanging around. We saw them, I can't even remember when we last saw them. It was quite a while ago. But there were 2 brothers. One of them had an injury, and there was one fella that was seen for about 2 seconds this morning. He'd made an impala kill. He was just finishing it up, and I was trying to follow up on him because we could hear hyena activity. But anyways, I don't know where he is. He might come here a bit later. So the buffalo have been a bit wary as they came to the watering hole. But that's quite normal for these creatures, though. Anyways, is that our other friend? Oh my goodness, that's our friend with no teeth. Well, he's missing teeth, I think. He's also so funny. Look at that. I can't even want to go much closer now so that I can show you him, because he's another spectacular individual. Lauren, Tungsten obviously eats fine because he's fat. His belly couldn't be any rounder, considering we're, at the peak of the driest part of the year. Well, okay, we're going into the driest part of the year now. October is normally the worst, but I think we might, October and November are quite bad. So he's fine. I haven't seen him eating long grass, so I'm excited when the rains sort of come about and the grass sort of pushes through the ground finally, and then we'll be able to see him wrapping his tongue around the long bits of grass, because there's very little left at the moment. But he eats fine, obviously. And he's also, you can see he's missing most of his tail. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if hyenas tried to get him when he was a youngster, or if lions have had a go at him before and he is a survivor. Who knows? Maybe those 2 injuries are related. What we did notice, though, is we thought his tongue looked like he had a bit more colour in it. At one point, it looked very yellow and grey and looked like he was sick. But at one point in the golden light this afternoon, it looked like he had a tinge of pink to it.
So just as those buffalo seem to have had quite a rough time over there at Pridelands, we've come across this one wildebeest that also seems to have been going through a little bit of a tough time by himself. You have a look at that one on the left. If we're looking right at the top of the back there, you can see that there's a patch of fur that's missing. And then just on the side, you can see that there's 3 distinct scars. It's actually turning nicely now for us to see those. 3 distinct scars going right down the side in a very long, thin line. And also if you have a look at the tail, you can see that the end of the tail actually doesn't, it's almost like it's chopped. Compare it to the one on the right, the tail's much shorter and it just suddenly ends and almost as if it's been cut right there. So I think this poor wildebeest has actually had a run-in with a lion. And the reason I say that is because this is exactly how a lion would sort of try and hunt a wildebeest like this. It would try and jump on the back of the wildebeest and use his claws to grip on the sides and then might actually even try and bite down on the back. I think, judging by where that scar is on the top and the claws, I don't think it got a very good grip and didn't bite as far forward as it normally would. And this wildebeest probably gave it a good kick and managed to get away. These are quite old scars. You can't see any fresh blood. There's nothing to indicate that it's very recent. I think they're very old scars indeed. So this wildebeest was lucky and managed to get away. Oh, it's quite interesting if we compare it to the one on the right. One on the right is beautiful condition, much, much stronger. Tina, in terms of thickness, it seems to be a 3-way tie between elephant, rhino, and hippo. And their thickest part of their skin is about 2 inches. And it's not throughout the whole body, but there are points where the skin is just thicker. And it seems that they all have about 2 inches thick at certain points, which is, if we think of 2 inches, that's incredibly thick for skin. So they all seem to be tied at first place for the thickest skin. This is just, I can't even tell you how breathtaking the scene is. The sun is starting to go down. We're actually starting to get some pink and orange overlooking this area. And we've got, off to our left, we've got these wildebeest. We've got some zebra feeding next to them. We've also got some giraffe in the background. We've got the birds starting to call as the evening creeps in. You can hear the zebras snorting. I think we're going to drive around a little bit and appreciate this sort of serene moment that you get in the African bushveld.
Yeah, just moving around, you'll always see something different. Every few meters you turn, you'll see something you did not expect. Like, I just moved after I left the lapwings feeding on the ground there, and I found this unicorn. But now, looking at him carefully, he has a very interesting story because I'm seeing lots of ox pickers on him. Not red. Just around the knee area. He seems to have a very huge tumor of some sort, I would guess. I won't call it a snake bite, but I've just guessed, that this could be a tumor or something cancerous that doesn't seem to be bothering him. He seems to be feeding well. He has lost one horn. I'm not sure in a fight. I'm not sure he was born that way. I've never seen him before. But looking at his age, he looks to me like a senior citizen, like an old eland. And I wouldn't know what could have happened to him, but he seems to be in very good shape, feeding on grass as usual, as the elands will do. Elands will both graze and browse at the same time. And they're 4 huge bulls. they form their own bachelor club here because there are not females with them, as much as the females also got horns. Males get greyish as they age, and the dewlap below their necks become even bigger, which we have always thought it helps them to thermoregulate in the tropical heat, and they're able to keep the temperatures down. See how massive that dewlap is. And it gets the bigger, the more the surface area, the better the cooling. I'm sure you can hear from the background some elephants having a go on each other in those orange leaf crotters in the background there. It made those elands stop for a minute to watch or to listen carefully. But I think they said it once they knew they were elephants or they were herbivores like them. But if they were lions rolling, you'd have seen the difference in their body language. So assuming it was a snake bite on this particular tumor here, then he did not jump as we usually expect them to jump. Because from a standing point, these animals have been known to jump anything 3 or 4 meters high, and especially in flight. Still looking in the direction where the elephants were trumpeting. I would really want to follow this male eland and know what exactly could have transpired. I'm imagining he had some few close-ups with predators like lions, and to be where he is, looking the way he is, I would say he has done very well. And maybe just having one horn for fights or defending himself. Swinging their tails as usual, as most herbivores would do. And remember, should you have any questions or comments, please send them through to #WorldEarth or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. We'd love to hear from you. The largest antelope we got in Africa. Way back, my grandfather used to tell me of all the antelopes we have in Africa, the elands had the best meat. Well, Charles, good question there. You're asking how common are tumors with animals. I'll say, if anything, Charles, this is the very first one I have seen with an eland. I have always seen tumors more in buffaloes here in the African wilderness than any other animal. We see lots of that, or personally I see lots of that in buffaloes, but Charles, this is my very first one to see with an eland. Charles, I'm trying to remember what other antelope or animal would have seen the tumor. I can't remember, but we've seen buffaloes a lot, and apparently it always comes on the leg, either above the knee or slightly below the knee, which is something, of interest that maybe some people would want to research why at that particular point. And some of those tumors, like you see on buffaloes, they are huge. I mean, you see them like looking like almost 1 square foot. But interestingly, the animals you see with these tumors, they just live their lives normally. Mr. Unicorn, wish you well with the tumor, and hopefully you're going to live a few more years as I move on.
Our lionesses have not left this scene, but I think one is thinking about it. Maybe time to wake up. I'm not quite sure. Oh, still tired. The second one, I think, time for a turn. Oh, look at how he's using the sister like a pillow. How cute is this? Now these lions, look at how they look so peaceful and quite lazy there. Then one thing that crosses one's mind is that they are killer machines. These lions, through their life, they've brought down buffaloes, zebras, and other prey. So, right where we are, we have lots of wildebeest, and I'm sure these ladies or these girls are right in the best position or best place to be, because tonight maybe something might fall into their dinner. Now, we saw them yesterday, they missed out on some elands, but I'm sure today, or tonight rather, they find something. Now, lions prefer when it's cool, the cooler time of the evening, or maybe at night, because it's cool enough for them to carry on with the hunting. They use less energy at night, and their vision is best or good at night. They can be able to isolate prey at night easily without being detected as compared to the day. Now that is an indication that there's some flies there, so they use the tail to whisk off the flies. So there's sometimes when you see lions sleeping like that, they get irritated by some flies called the lion flies, which like the moist part of their body, especially on the hind part, maybe under the hind legs. So these two lionesses are sisters. There's one dominant male that was around here a while ago. His name was Kibogoyo. Together with his brothers, we saw them being chased by buffaloes. Now, lions can go for bigger prey, small prey. They can also scavenge sometimes. They're opportunistic also. And if sometimes they can hear hyenas, maybe at a kill, they can go and chase them if it's maybe one or two. But sometimes they fall victim and they get chased away from their kill by hyenas. So these lions are going to be here for a little while. And as they wait here, something might come their way. We've seen sometimes in sighting like this, warthogs, impalas, and even wildebeest and zebra come their way. So as they sleep here, it's getting cool, so we're going to wait for a little while and see what they'll be up to.
Right, so we're going to just be following Kalamba because, well, she's just woken up right now, so our patience has paid off. And she's going exactly where we thought she was, basically up the Mulawati. So she's heading straight northwards. Hopefully we'll be able to keep up with her. It's quite a tricky area and it sounds like we have a few tech issues, so we'll just be patient and hopefully come out the other side.
Good luck, Tristy. Tlalamba's not an easy one. The Nkuhumas, on the other hand, are easy. So I've bumbled around and checked on the hyena den multiple times, but no one's home. Tristan reported some hyenas running on by, but they didn't run to the den. I waited, and we're back with the sleepy Nkuhumas, who have maybe moved about 2.5 meters. And this is my last drive for quite a while. I won't be back for quite some time, so I really wanted to say goodbye to my hyenas, but I really don't think they're going to be there. So you all need to keep an eye on our Juma clan over the next few months. Watch the cubs get bigger, and keep an eye on June. We really suspect she may be pregnant, but we need to sort of keep a closer eye on her, find out if she's scoping out natal dens, her behaviour, and hopefully we'll have some more cubs by the time I come back. Apparently there's two new male lions, well, not new male lions as such, but two male lions that have visited Buffelshoek before, back on Buffelshoek. There's a lot of movement between the lions, a lot more than we're aware of. And this is constant. Even lionesses are known to leave the coalition that they are under sometimes, which is very dangerous and very tricky, to sneak off with a male from a completely different coalition. Now, it's naughty, and if she got caught, she'd be in trouble, but lionesses are known to do that. If stronger males come into the area, they will. They want the best for their offspring. Now, luckily, we did a body count earlier because I'm not sure I could be able to identify who's here or not. I'm still hoping that before the end of this drive, they're going to go to Treehouse Dam for a drink.
I am honestly in absolute awe at the moment. Oh, here comes the second wave. Can you hear them? There are, I think, a few thousand, or maybe like 1,000 Quelea here. Maybe a little bit more. Look at this. I'm literally sitting with my hands on my face. I'm so amazed. This is so cool. This is what we've been trying to get. I cannot tell you for how long. I'm almost actually looking behind me, seeing if there's another flock that's on their way so we can get the gorgeous light for you. But there they go. So these are called red-billed Quelias. Oh my goodness, look at them all in front of the buffalo. That's so epic. We don't see things like this very often in South Africa, and especially like in the areas that I've worked in, the Greater Kruger, I've never seen them in such numbers. So we might not have the most amazing lion and leopard sightings all the time, but we get some really cool other things. And the flocking of the red-billed Quelias, which has been building. Look, there's a murmuration in the distance. Oh my goodness! Up top, in the sky! It was huge! It was like a fish swimming. This is so cool. The whole sky is just covered. Oh my goodness, sorry everyone, I get very excited about these things. But this is the most abundant bird species in the world. There is estimated over 1.5 billion red-billed Quelias, which is so spectacular, and they just keep coming. Look at them, they're all coming down to drink now. So they seem to go and roost somewhere in the west, and then every single morning they fly back across the sky, over camp, and go and feed, obviously, in the grassy areas that we have on the eastern sides of the reserve, because they typically are seed-eating birds. Oh my goodness, I wish you were all here. Wow, 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 wow. The biggest murmurations I've seen of these birds, and I think I've told you all before, is in South Luangwa in Zambia. That was spectacular. There were so many. I'm hoping that they decide to nest here this year. We've been keeping an eye out of where they've sort of been hanging around, and they make the coolest little woven nests, but just as many birds as there are, they make that many nests all in the same area. So they look like miniature weaver nests dangled everywhere. So special. For those of you that are like, this is ridiculous, this is just birds, like, I can't tell you, like, the way that they fly when there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of these birds together, it's so spectacular. I know there's some starling species in Europe that also do it, but for us here in Southern Africa, there are very, very few, and I don't know if any other bird species do it to this extent. And off they go. We've been trying to get this for ages. It's best to be on the other side of the dam, though, where you can actually get the sun setting in the background, but we will take what we can get. I'm so happy that I got to finally show you this, and I'm glad we had the buffalo as a backdrop.
Very well done, Taylor. And just like Taylor, I'm also very excited to show you black rhinos from the Masai Mara. It's not one, two, it's a mother and her two calves. I don't know who is more excited than the other, myself or Taylor, but I think myself, because we have the black rhinos in the Mara, but sometimes they're always very difficult to spot, or when you spot them, because they're always very shy, unlike the white rhinos, they very quickly retreat in the bushes. It's the youngest calf of this mother. And I'm sure we saw white rhinos before during the show, and the one major difference that to me count is the behavior of these animals. Of course, the other differences like what they feed on, the shapes of the mouth, but these ones tend to be more in the thickets. And once you see them out, either they'll be browsing on small little plants or small little bushes, like Kepa's bush, and on their way back to the bushes. But the white rhinos may remain open like the whole day and the whole night. Very difficult to get black rhinos out open like where they are in the night. Not sure whether that one wants to go and play with the sister or the brother. I think this mother has done very well to have two calves which are almost to maturity. Very poor eyesight they got, but very cute hearing sense. That's what the black rhinos depend on most. They'll always stop and move their ears like satellite dishes, picking any sound wave from any direction. And I'm sure they're always able to digest whatever noise it is or whatever sound it is. If it's nothing of concern, they'll definitely keep moving. It's the bigger calf that has joined now, the small one and the mother. Very territorial. In general, they'll always have the small calves by the side or at the back. It's very typical for black rhinos. Unlike the white rhinos, where you'll always have the calves either on the side or in the front. The black rhinos have to be very careful what they're venturing into. Exactly that, baby on the side or at the back. Once she's cleared that the road ahead is good to go, the calf will follow. They seem to have been doing some mud bath somewhere. Charles, good to hear your name again. I hope the same Charles that we were discussing with the tumor of the elands before, and you're asking why don't they dehorn in the Mara. Charles, I think we got very good surveillance here of rhinos by the game rangers in the Mara. That's number one. But also it was found out way back, Charles, that when poachers were meant or they were determined to bring down a rhino, and they would find one and they get it without the horn, I think out of frustration, or they said they would still kill it. So you would imagine, I mean, even these poachers, they know the risk they face, Charles. Being out here, way back when poaching was very bad in Kenya, we had a presidential directive, way back I think in the 70s, where the president said, any poacher you get out in the wilderness, don't even arrest them, just shoot them where they are. So the poachers know the risk and the dangers they face. So it takes them a lot of nerves to be out here to try and get a rhino. And they know if they're caught, they're done. So what they do, out of their frustration, trying to follow and monitor and capture a rhino at one point, and they do not get one. When they get one and it doesn't have a horn, what they'll do, they'll still just kill it either way. So that seemed not to be working. So what to do? The game rangers improve their apparatus and their surveillance, and every day we have planes or planes up in the air, just keeping an eye. Game rangers will be patrolling, and I would say, Charles, so far, so good.
They're very good at the rhino patrolling up in the Masai Mara. And Mohawk here is very good at sleeping. He's taken to cuddling a log I don't think any of the ladies want to spoon with them, so he's decided that he's going to spoon this log. They're all cuddling one another here. We've got a big cuddle puddle in the middle here, BK. We've got some sneezing. I've noticed that when the lionesses wake up, especially in Ngahuma Pride, they sneeze a lot. It's very often that they'll just sneeze as soon as they wake up. I have no idea why. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh. Considering they are the apex predator of the entire ecosystem out here, they control everything from a top-down approach. They can be very adorable at times. You can look at an ecosystem as a whole, but you can also look at it from top down, and you can look at it from the bottom up. Starting from the very sort of grass that grows from the soil upwards. But that's the role of lions in the ecosystem. So although they're extremely fierce predators, they are there to control the populations of the prey. Can you imagine if there was far too many herbivores, especially grazers? They would just graze everything. There would be nothing left of the grass, which would then in fact destroy the land. Balance is everything. Ecosystems are all about balance. That's why you have predators, that's why you have prey, that's why you have scavengers, that's why you have detritivores. Well, they haven't got up to go for water yet, but I'm hoping it's coming soon.
As you can see, Kalamba is stalking very, very carefully. Watch how she lifts her legs over this branch. She's busy hunting a scrub hare, which is a surprise, surprise. She's chasing it around all over the place, but this is her now trying to get through a little thicket, and look at how carefully she lifts her paws over the branches and places them. Not easy. She's almost like as though it's like a little wire sort of trap that she's trying to get through. She's got to go under and over and around. It's so cool to see. I have no idea where the scrub hare is. I just saw it a little bit earlier, kind of trotting off into this direction. So I'm sure it's somewhere in front of her. Judging by her body language, she's got to be pretty close to where it is. And we know at the moment that she's absolutely loving scrub hares. In fact, I can actually see it. It's impossible for the camera to pick it up, though. It's a little bit further ahead of where she's going. I don't want to start the car because I'm worried that it'll spook the scrub hare. But the scrub hare is probably from where she is about 10 meters in front of her. She's now taking a bit of a different route to get to it. And she's going to zigzag her way there. And the good thing is the scrub hare is feeding. It's facing away from her. It's not facing towards her at all. But look at the body language. Watching a leopard in full stalk is one of the most mesmerizing experiences. Watching those spots as they slink through the grass and how they extend their body, and they're so careful with how they place their feet. Hopefully, like I say, we'll be able to see her get a little bit closer. She's still got a long way to go, and there's not much cover for her. Unfortunately, she's in a situation where she's busy kind of trying to close the gap, but the gap is still quite far. So she's got a little bit of a way to go. There's another vehicle coming, so I'm going to just use the other vehicle just to move ever so slightly forward. Should be able to get a direct line of her and the scrub hare just above her head there. So up a little bit higher, a little bit higher. I don't know if if you can see it there its ears are. So she's walking straight towards it. Isn't this a cool shot? Now, of course, the scrubhead has no idea that she's here at the moment. You can see it's busy feeding, and I hope it doesn't have little babies, because sometimes when you see them doing this, there's little ones around, and she'll take even the little ones. It doesn't matter for her. It can be adult or baby. She'll go after either. Isn't that amazing? To be able to get footage like this is so incredible. You can just see the scrubhead. It does look like there's little ones there. It's just me, or is there movement around the tummy of that little scrubhead? It looks like there might be. Now she'll be banking on, if there is little ones, the inexperience of them. And of course, it's not a huge meal for her, but she'll take anything she can get. Amazing to watch, though, how she slinks through the grass. Come on, you clever girl. Now, for those of you that are sensitive, it's probably a good time to look away, because she will pounce at some point, and if she does grab it, unfortunately, they do make a little bit of a noise. So, like I say, if you're sensitive to animals being hunted and being killed, then I suggest now's the time to not be watching anymore. And as sad as it would be for the scrubhead, obviously, she's also got to feed. She's got to be able to find a way to eat. And so this is part and parcel of life out here. As much as she hunts these scrubheads, and it's obviously sad for them, at the same token, she's got to watch out for hyenas and other leopards and lions. So she knows it's a kind of catch-22 in many respects. But watching a hunt is what is so interesting. The actual final result normally doesn't interest me that much, but the techniques and the way that they move and how much patience they show and the way that they are able to glide through these seemingly difficult places with such ease and not make noise. And I can tell you, if you've ever been out here, to walk as silently as she is and to negotiate little thickets like that is really very, very, very difficult. Now, some of you might also be wondering why she hasn't pounced from where she is, because it looks as though she's right on top of that scrubhead. Well, there's two reasons for that. One is that she's not close enough yet. The scrubhead is very, very fast. The second reason is that the lens is actually making it appear that the scrubhead is closer than it actually is. The leopard is probably, I would say, about 8 meters, 7-8 meters from where the scrubhead is, which is too far. It needs to close the gap to within 2 or 3. And how leopards generally hunt scrubheads is they get to a point where they're able to be just behind it, and then they explode from behind and they land on it. So they actually don't run after it, they more jump on it, and that generally gives them the element of surprise to be able to grab it. So what she's trying to do now is just close the gap a little bit and try to get that much closer in order to be able to do that. But if you've ever wondered how difficult this must be, can you imagine going into a full stretch? So maybe some of you at home would like to try this, but go into a full stretch on all fours and kind of put your 2 hands out and then just hold that position without moving. And you'll quickly learn how much strength it takes to be able to do what she's doing right now without moving that body too much and giving her presence away. And what we're going to need to look for here is her tail more than anything. When her tail starts to twitch and her bum starts to wiggle, that's when we know that she's going to jump. You see she's laid down now, and cleverly so, because the scrubhead is slightly turned towards where we are. And so it would have seen her coming. So she's going to sit down in the hope that the scrubhead is going to approach her, and then from there she can jump on it. So for now, it's just a patience game and waiting. Very clever. Don't know if you can see the scrubhead in the background is now facing her completely. So a little bit higher up, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. There we go. So you see there's the ears and the eyes, and it's kind of canted towards Kalamba at the moment, and that's why she's laid down. It's just to try and hold off and wait until that scrub hare's back turns, and then she can start stalking again. Amazing, isn't it? You would think the scrub hare could see her, but you know, her coat blends in so well, and if she's not moving, it can be quite tricky to pick up a leopard in this. She also doesn't have any more cover to use to get closer to that scrub hare, so she's now basically hoping that the scrub hare comes towards her, and the darker it gets, the more kind of the scrub hare is going to explore without being able to actually see her. Maybe that's what she's banking on, is just waiting for it to get that much darker. Silmar, well, they don't. So the agility and the strength and all of those things start to wane as they get old. Their muscles and their body starts to break down on them a little bit, and hunting becomes harder and harder. And it's often how a lot of leopards come to their demise, is that their condition deteriorates so much, and because hunting becomes so much harder, they're just not able to keep their body in good shape, and then they get attacked by other leopards, they get attacked by hyenas, they get, have to deal with all of those things. So it really is the way that they go, is that their body does break down, they don't maintain their agility, but as long as they're able to find food and water and keep moving, their body stays pretty sort of healthy. As soon as they start to kind of, get slower and older, and that finding food becomes harder, then it's just a quick downhill slope from there, and it's a very sad thing to watch a leopard get like that. Although it's a kind of, for me, is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's amazing to see a leopard live out its life in a natural setting and to survive and be a part of an ecosystem for as long as its lifespan. But the second thing about it is it's obviously sad to watch a leopard go from a magnificent animal like this, and over the years slowly start to see it wane down to a point where it becomes just skin and bone, and that's always a sad thing. But like I say, it's part and parcel of being out here, and you've got to take one with the other. Unfortunately, as much as it's nice when you have leopards that are in good condition, they have to succumb at some point, otherwise we just have too many in the ecosystem, which would affect the balance, and obviously the species wouldn't do as well. So Minamu at the moment, the reason why it's not picking up the smell of it is one, so if you look at a scrub hare, you'll see how its kind of facial features are in a certain way. So very large ears, quite a large eye, but quite small nostrils, which indicates to you that their sense of smell is not the best. They're relying more on their hearing than anything else, and then that big eye to be able to bring in a bit of light. But the other reason why it's not picking up her scent is that the wind currently is blowing across them. So essentially the wind is blowing from left to right of the frame, and so her scent is actually being blown away from the scrub hare, which means the scrub hare can't pick up that the leopard is there. Earlier, when we first spotted the scrub hare and she first started stalking, she was actually below wind, and she could see like Tlalamba was trying to figure out, okay, which way do I go, and every time the wind would gust a little bit, she would stop and go backwards and try and go around and try and kind of cut the scrub hare off. But as soon as there was one gust, that scrub hare picked up her scent and trotted off, and then now is kind of the stalking has started to take place again. But I don't know how successful she's going to be. She's got a lot of ground to kind of, and the scrub hare's actually moved off a little bit more to kind of further away from us. So I think she's going to be patient and just wait for it to get darker before she decides to do anything. I think she's going to wait until it's night time. That's my personal feeling. Because she's just watching the scrub hare and just keeping tabs on it. And you often see this from cats, is that they do this. They have a way of just sitting and being patient, and as soon as it gets really dark, then they know that they can come into their own and start to hunt. Crazy though. Camouflage is amazing. I mean, you can just see the spots, but she's really not easy to see. Like I said, the scrub hare has disappeared off. Unfortunately, it is that time of the evening where we need to say goodbye to all of you. I hope that you've had a wonderful afternoon. Hopefully that you've enjoyed all the wonderful sights from across Africa. It's been a magnificent day, that's for sure. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.